Welcome, and thank you for joining today's panel discussion. My name is Ashlyn Baker, and I serve as Director of the King's Daughters Milk Bank. Today, we will be discussing navigating the formula shortage with experts in our region and the state. Our experts include Dr. Michelle Brenner, Brenna Downey, Dr. Mitchell, Paula Garrett, and Jareen Fleming. And we will get started with recommendations from the pediatrician, which will be presented by Douglas Mitchell, Medical Director of Children's Medical Group and pediatrician at Norfolk Pediatrics. Thank you, Dr. Mitchell.
Hello, good day, everyone. I'm glad you could join us. Our hope here is to provide you with some useful information in this time that's a little bit disconcerting to everyone. As a general pediatrician, I'm speaking to you just sort of general guidance for basically normal children, normal infants. We'll come to some of the specialty stuff later. First of all, you're always welcome to call your pediatrician if you can't find the resources that you need. Your pediatrician may or may not have additional resources, but they know you and your baby better than anyone, and they can help guide you as to what are reasonable alternatives if you just are out of choices. Don't be afraid to try alternative brands. If you're looking at standard formulas, as I've been telling my patients, take whatever you can find. Don't worry about the brand, just go with the standard formulas. They're all pretty equivalent. They're going to provide the nutrition that your infant needs. And we don't find that changes of brands really makes a whole lot of difference in stool pattern or spit up or anything like that. Sometimes it's useful to check the smaller stores that may still have some supply, or some of the larger box stores like Sam's Clubs or BJ's or Costco may have supplies that you can't find in some of the other standard sort of stores. There are lots of resources now with websites and social media groups that are aimed at locating infant formula. My understanding is that you can bring them up and they even give you a location where there's formulas in stock that you can then go find some. We do recommend that you only buy online from well-recognized distributors, grocers, and pharmacies. Really don't get into the black market sorts of things because the quality and safety cannot be guaranteed if you're trying to do some of those things. And also, please don't purchase more than you need. Part of the problem is the hoarding sorts of things, kind of hearkening back to the toilet paper shortages at the beginning of the pandemic. So we can just sort of wait for it to slowly come in and not do any hoarding. Next slide. Some do's and don'ts. Never dilute the formula more than what it says on the package. Extra dilution, hoping that it will last longer, actually can be dangerous to your infant. And so we definitely don't recommend that. We don't recommend the homemade formula recipes. There's a lot of those out on social media platforms or going back to the quote old days of using evaporated milk. Those also can be somewhat dangerous if we're not careful. We don't recommend changing our guidelines of introducing solid foods somewhere between 4 and 6 months. Doing it earlier is really not going to help a whole lot, but you can decrease the formula need a little bit by going ahead and introducing solid foods in that 4 to 6 month time frame. There are toddler formulas. We recommend only using them as a last resort for a few days if your child is closer to a year. And the same thing with cow's milk, only as a last resort for less than a week if your child is less than 1 year. And goat's milk and plant-based milk are really not recommended. They do not provide the right nutrition for our infants, and there are some potential issues with those. So sticking to the other solutions would be more beneficial. So thank you for being with us today, and on to the next.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Just a quick question for you. What is the problem with cow's milk? Is there a protein issue, or is there an issue with iron for babies that shouldn't be exposed to cow's milk for too long of a period in their first year of life, especially before 6 months?
Yeah, thanks, Ashlyn. You led right into it and answered it for us. And that is the real issue is not enough iron absorption. Infants before a year on cow's milk can become iron deficient and become significantly anemic if they don't have that extra supplementation.
Excellent. Thank you for that feedback and that advice and instructions. Now we're going to turn it over to Brenna Downey. She's a clinical dietitian in the renal clinic and the GI clinic here at CHKD, and she's going to talk more about specialty formula.
Thank you, Ashlyn. As Ashlyn stated, my name is Brenna. I am a dietitian here at CHKD in both the renal and GI clinics. Myself and our dietitians here see a lot of children, young adults. We see any ages 0 to 25 that may require specialty formula, feeding tubes, dependence on formula for the majority or all of their nutrition. I know personally my patients have been affected greatly by this recall and the shortage. So if your child is on one of these specialty formulas, is seen in one of these clinics, and you are short of formula, you're about to run out, you're not sure what to do, my first recommendation is to please call your child's prescribing doctor. So that's wherever you get your formula prescription from, because in a lot of cases, we have contacts with home health companies. We might have samples at the clinic where we can either change the formula or get you something to hold you over until it comes. So that's really the first step, is letting your doctor, your dietitian know, because we have those resources for specialty formulas. That being said, there are some parents that are asking, well, I'm on this formula. What formula can I go to? I want to purchase it myself. A family friend has something. So we'll kind of go through some of the basics of those. For GI specific patients, there's a lot of options, but I'll touch on just briefly the ones that we're seeing the most of. Which one would be the amino acid based formulas. So this is going to be like an Elecare Infant and Elecare Junior that was recalled. Some substitutions for that would be an alpha amino, pure amino, neocate. Those are going to come in both infant and junior. And then Equicare and Essential Care, which are only for above the age of 1. And then the other one we see quite often is cow's milk allergy. So some substitutions for that would be a Kate Farms, which is also only good for over the age of 1. Nutramigen, Gerber, Extensive HA, Alimentum, and then again, Alpha Amino, Pure Amino, Neocate, and Equicare. And then for renal substitutions, I really want to stress that if your child has a renal disease and is on formula, please do not purchase any formula until you speak to your dietitian, to your doctor. And this is because these children have specific electrolyte needs, and a lot of our formulas are mixed to provide the correct dosage. And if you switch formulas, even if it's a substitution on the label, the electrolytes might not be the same, and it can cause them to get too much or too little, and it can be very, very dangerous. So please just contact your doctor or dietitian before doing that. And then the same with metabolic formulas. They do not recommend purchasing or switching yourself. Please contact them. And then just be mindful, if you do have other formula, maybe you've gotten the okay from your doctor to do something else, that mixing instructions are going to be different for these specialty formulas. So if you're mixing, say, alpha amino one way and you get pure amino, they're going to be a little different. And since a lot of these children are dependent on this for a lot of their calories, we want to make sure that they're still getting the right amount of calories. So if you receive mixing instructions from your doctor, from your dietitian, please contact us. And I just want to say, like, in my clinics especially, we have been seeing a lot of patients with this recall, with this shortage. We are more than happy to help. Do not feel like you need to dilute your formula. Please don't do that, or substitute Pedialyte or water. For these kids with special needs, it can be very damaging. So please reach out to us. We have a great team of people in all of our clinics, happy to help find resources and substitutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenna. We appreciate that information. Next, we're going to talk with Paula Garrett. She's the director of the Division of Community Nutrition and State WIC for the Virginia Department of Health. Paula?
Thank you. I am Paula Garrett, and I bring you greetings from the Virginia Department of Health, the Division of Community Nutrition, whereas I also serve as the state WIC director. To give you a little context, the state of Virginia's WIC program provides nutrition and nutrition education and breastfeeding support and for over 120 individuals. That sounds like about close to about 75,000 families. And during this infant formula recall and ensuing shortage, we have affected over 40,000 infants. A couple of things that we want to let you know is that the Virginia WIC program has provided nutrition and support to all of these infants and their parents and their caregivers by exhausting all of the waivers available to us, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, by providing substitutions for all of the 8 affected infant formulas that were produced by Abbott. But there are a couple of things that we want to provide for our parents and caregivers, a couple of tips that will help families as they navigate this infant formula shortage. The first thing we want um, to discuss with parents is only purchase a 10 to 14-day supply of infant formula. Stockpiling will only increase the shortage and only provide additional frustration. Moreover, we ask that parents call grocery stores in their area to find out if there is formula that's available before they make that travel. And then try smaller markets and pharmacies as they may have stock of these infant formula substitutions where some of the big box stores may not. And lastly, we want to make sure that you're not making homemade infant formula recipes that you may find on the internet or on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. And we also do not recommend diluting any of the formula that you find. And if you are interested in breastfeeding, we have staff in our local health departments that can provide lactation support and instruction for families that are breastfeeding and for pregnant women that are interested in breastfeeding. With that, I turn this back over to you, Ashlyn.
Thank you, Paula. That is wonderful information to share with families in our community and beyond. We are thrilled to have Doreen Fleming, our state breastfeeding coordinator from the Virginia Department of Health, here to talk to us about additional lactation support and resources.
Thanks, Ashlyn, and thank you so much for this forum. I think it's been really important to make the distinction between specialty formulas and commercial formulas. So this is really valuable information. As Paula Garrett just stated, our program is here to support you, specifically the WIC program for eligible participants. But we want to encourage all Virginians, if you are currently expecting, please get information. Prenatal education is very important for the success of breastfeeding so that you can meet your own personal feeding goals. But I want to introduce what is a new concept and a new word to many, and that is relactation. If you are partially breastfeeding, we encourage you to offer feedings more often, and that will increase your milk production. But even if your infant is totally dependent on formula, you can start the process of inducing lactation. It's much easier the younger the baby is to make that happen, but you can start milk production even if you didn't start breastfeeding immediately. If you breastfed for a short period of time and then stopped, it will be easier for you to get the process started again. I highly recommend that you seek skilled lactation support in this process. There are a number of breastfeeding medicine clinics in Virginia, and I would suggest that you Google that, breastfeeding or lactation clinic, and to find the location that's nearest you. It's also very helpful to have peer-to-peer support. Specifically, we have breastfeeding peer counselors within the WIC program if you're a WIC participant, but there are other groups on social media and also some groups that meet in person like the La Leche League or Breastfeeding USA or Reaching Our Sisters Everywhere have online presence and online support groups that you can connect with, because it is a process. It's not a race. It again, depending upon the age of the infant, it can go more quickly. It also dependent upon if you just recently stopped breastfeeding, it's much easier to return to breastfeeding. It is a process, and knowing that every amount that is expressed or fed to baby is a success. You can also contact your local health departments for any local referrals. There are independent or community-based lactation consultants that can be very helpful and critical with this, so far as monitoring the baby with weight gain and how well the baby is transferring milk if you're feeding at the body or at the breast or chest. And you can also find skilled lactation providers from the ILCA, the International Lactation Consultants of America website, or USLCA. You can also find lactation consultants that are in your area. And informal breast milk sharing online and purchasing breast milk online certainly does carry potential risk. I would urgently refer you to the American Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine statement on informal milk sharing for more information about that. And as all of the previous speakers have said, please check with your baby's healthcare provider should you have any questions, especially, if the infant is on a restricted diet, has any underlying medical conditions. Part of relactation may be, why did you stop? If you were breastfeeding, why did you stop prematurely? If there were, an issue with the baby with weight gain or effectively transferring milk, again, a skilled lactation provider can assist you with that.
Doreen, this is fantastic. Can you briefly talk to the availability of breast pumps for families, as well as pump breaks for working families, working mothers?
Thank you for that question. I should have mentioned that, Ashlyn. So one thing about that will make relactation successful is frequent removal, frequent stimulation of the breast. And so if you are not with your baby, or if your baby is not willing and you're using a breast pump, that means that you need to frequently do that. And if you are a working parent, a parent who's working outside of the home, fortunately in Virginia, we have legal protections, or legal supports, I should say, for working parents and working lactating parents, so that in Virginia, if you're an employee at a business with 5 or more employees, then that employer is required to give you time and space, an appropriate space, to express your milk during the work period. All insurances cover breast pumps. That is a requirement for your insurance. So you can call your insurer to get information about how you can get a pump. And if some of them may require a prescription from your physician. And so if you contact, it can be your physician or your baby's pediatrician can write a prescription for you to get what we would call a hospital grade pump in order to, if you're using it specifically for relactation or to establish lactation. And of course, WIC participants are able to receive pumps from our program. So if you have been partially breastfeeding and perhaps didn't qualify for a pump previously, but you now would like to build your milk production, please contact your WIC office, and we can help you and issue a pump to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Doreen. And next, we're going to turn it over to Dr. Michelle Brenner, the Medical Director of the King's Daughters Milk Bank and Pediatrician in General Academic Pediatrics at CHKD. She's going to talk about the role of the King's Daughters Milk Bank and the need for milk donations. Dr. Brenner?
Thank you, Ashlyn. Our milk bank team at the Children's Hospital of the King's Daughters is very proud of just the work that we've accomplished since we opened in 2014. We're one of 31 nonprofit milk banks in North America, including Canada. We're the only milk bank in Virginia. Our team follows strict evidence-based donor screening protocols, and the milk is pasteurized and tested for bacteria, per standards recommended by the Human Milk Banking Association of North America, the Food and Drug Administration, and the Center for Disease Control. Currently, for the most part, we prioritize donor milk treatments to premature and critically ill infants in about 40 neonatal intensive care units stretching up and down the East Coast. We do, in addition, serve some medically fragile infants in the home by prescription with letters of medical necessity from their physicians. And for the most part, this milk is not covered by health insurance, which I'll touch on in a second. When supply allows, we are able to provide 1 to 2 days of bridge milk for families of newborns who are struggling with the onset of milk production or with breastfeeding issues. We have several providers around the state who are helping us find families who would be eligible for these situations. As I mentioned, the majority of insurance companies, except for TRICARE, do not cover pasteurized donor human milk provision, either the screening, processing, pasteurization, or microbiological testing. So there is a processing fee that is charged in certain situations in order to cover this for infants, but TRICARE does cover this for infants with medical need. Our supply is limited, but currently we are in a good situation to help additional families if needed. Milk donations and monetary donations are always welcome and needed, and there's no cost to donate. Location is never an issue. We are happy to initiate screening by phone. The second phase is an electronic screen that we would send you. And then the third step is a blood screening. And then if you live locally, you can actually drop the milk off at the milk bank after the screening process is complete, or we will overnight ship across the state or anywhere else in the region to get the milk to us. So we appreciate your attendance today, and thank you, Ashlyn, for helping arrange this important topic for everyone.
Yes, thank you to all of our amazing expert panel speakers. Your information, your guidance, your resources are invaluable at this time. This slide here shows additional resources or references, websites that you may want to look into for additional information, including the American Academy of Pediatrics. CHKD has blogs and tips for parents that you can find from our website. VDH has a wonderful list of WIC resources, and there's a list of temporary formula substitutions. La Leche League offers fantastic free mother-to-mother support for breastfeeding, as well as through skilled lactation experts. And then for a lot of new parents, we understand that the stress of the formula supply and the shortages and the recalls have added additional stressors in addition to just giving birth to a newborn. And Postpartum Support International is here to offer support as well, and you can find them online, and you can also call the number on the screen for additional support and guidance. Thank you for your time and for your interest. We hope that this information will be very helpful for you.